1. 1984 by George Orwell. Ah yes, 1984. The reason your English teacher wore all black and whispered about Big Brother like he lived next door. George Orwell wrote this dystopian classic in 1949 and warned us about surveillance states and thought control. Pretty much what happens when your government decides to make truth optional. Countries that really don't like being criticized, like the USSR and present-day North Korea, and if some patriotic Americans had their way, the US too, treated 1984 like a contagious disease. Even for the rest of the US, it's been challenged for being pro-communist, anti-family, or just too depressing. So basically for doing its job. Also, as a side note, the phrase "Big Brother is watching you" came from this book, along with doublethink and newspeak. Orwell basically invented the modern internet in book form, minus the cat videos. If you're living in a world where you're punished for remembering what actually happened 5 minutes ago, congrats! You're already in 1984. But hey, at least you don't have to pretend that 2 + 2 = 5. Yet. 2. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. So, Holden Caulfield hates phonies, and ironically, The Catcher in the Rye has been banned by real-life phonies since the 1950s. It was first published in 1951 as a coming-of-age novel that follows Holden's gradual mental decline over a few New York nights as he critiques everyone and everything with the emotional range of a, quoting Hermione Granger, teaspoon. He smokes, he drinks, he curses, and he says the word sex. You know, teenager things. Naturally, schools across the U.S. freaked out. One mom called it a filthy, filthy book. Others blamed it for corrupting youth, inspiring rebellion, and, we kid you not, linked it to legit crimes. And, well, Mark David Chapman, the guy who assassinated John Lennon, was carrying a copy when arrested. But banning Holden is like trying to ground a kid who already dropped out. The book became more famous because of the bans. It's like every edgy teen's first "I'm different" read. If Holden were alive today, he'd probably call cancel culture phony and then rage quit social media. But deep down, he just wants to be loved. Like every edgy boy you see on Reddit or TV shows named Riverdale, known for their household container-based names. You know who we're talking about. He's a weirdo. He doesn't fit in. 3. To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. This one's banned by people on both ends of the political seesaw, which is a special kind of accomplishment. Since being published in the not-at-all racist days of 1960, To Kill a Mockingbird has talked about racism, justice, and how small-town Southern charm can also come with the side of systemic oppression. The story is told through the eyes of Scout Finch, a kid whose dad, Atticus, becomes the face of decency by defending a black man falsely accused of assault. You'd think a book about not being racist would be hard to ban, but nope, it's been removed for racial slurs, sexual content, and being psychologically damaging. Some critics even claim Atticus is a white savior, and sure, that's fair. Fair enough. But would some, especially white people, read the book if it had a colored main character? Probably not. Which is why some people are almost glad Atticus is white. Banning To Kill a Mockingbird is like firing your smoke alarm for being too loud during a fire. The fire's still there, you just can't hear it anymore. 4. The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. What if women's rights were revoked, their bank accounts deleted? What if they were forced to become walking wombs in red robes? That's The Handmaid's Tale. And yes, it's been banned. Like, a lot. The funniest part is that it basically paints a scenario that was borderline real back when women's rights and activism wasn't seriously a thing. It was first published in 1985, and this dystopian novel imagines a future where a Christian theocracy runs the U.S. Women are valued solely for their reproductive organs. Super uplifting bedtime read. Schools and libraries have pulled it for being too sexually explicit. Some said it's anti-religious. Others found it too disturbing. Atwood would probably respond, "Good, that was the point." The red handmaid costume became a global symbol of protest, And you've seen it at Supreme Court rallies, women's marches, all that. Or in your nightmares after binge-watching the show. Ironically, the people banning the book sound a lot like the villains in the book, and it's pretty much like smashing your mirror because you don't like what's on it. Or like canceling Jaws because it has too many sharks. There's a spoiler here, though. The real monster isn't the fish. 5. Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury. Fahrenheit 451 is a book about burning books that keeps getting banned. The irony is practically flaming. A ray of understanding, if you think about it. Okay, enough. Published in 1953, this novel features Guy Montag, a firefighter whose job is not to put out fires, but to start them, specifically in libraries. Society has outlawed books, attention spans have shrunk to TikTok length, and everyone's addicted to screens. Sound familiar? Bradbury wasn't just worried about government censorship, he feared self-imposed ignorance, like when people willingly give up thinking because it's easier to scroll than to question, which means we're living in the early beta version of this book's future. It's been banned for offensive language and themes about banning things. You heard us. It's banned for being about bans. Like a snake eating its own tail and filing a lawsuit. This book doesn't just warn us about losing access to ideas, it screams about it. And then gets set on fire by the school board. Congratulations, world, you played yourself. 6. Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. Sex, drugs, and state-mandated happiness. Wait, no, this isn't about Vegas. Welcome to Brave New World, the original anti-vibe check. Huxley's 1932 novel imagined a future where humans are genetically engineered, emotions are chemically regulated, and babies are made in labs like IKEA furniture and sausages. Society is peaceful. Because everyone's drugged out of their minds. The book's been banned and challenged for, you guessed it, explicit content and blasphemy. And how could we forget offending public morals? In other words, it made people uncomfortable. But hey, at least there's no war, poverty, or Instagram Reels comment sections. And the most fun part is that this future isn't made on violence, but on comfort. Complacency, if you will. Basically, people choose to conform. Like the cool people who said abolishing slavery right away would be too extreme. And, well, let's not oppress and shame. They like it that way. 7. The Color Purple by Alice Walker. This book came out in 1982 and tells the story of Celie, an African-American woman in the early 20th century South. The place to be, actually, if you're a minority in every angle and just want to suffer. Basically, our main character is just like any minority from that era, a woman who suffers abuse, loss, racism, and finds strength through sisterhood and self-expression. Thank goodness for sisterhood, yeah? Maybe not if we listen to the hate crowd. Oh, some people really don't like where this is going. It's raw, it's graphic, and does not sugarcoat anything, which is exactly why it's been banned so often. Critics cite explicit content, violence, and religious skepticism. You know, all the slapped-on labels for a book that actually means something. Many schools pulled it off the shelves, arguing that it was too adult. Others claimed it promoted immoral behavior. Yet no one seemed to mind decades of sanitized textbooks pretending slavery was just unfortunate. Walker didn't write this book for comfort, she wrote it for truth. And sometimes truth doesn't pass the PTA's vibe check. Newsflash, banning a book about marginalized voices doesn't silence them. It just proves their point. 8. Lord of the Flies by William Golding. A group of boys crash land on an island and immediately forget how to be human. Welcome to Lord of the Flies, the original reality show. Published in 1954, Golding's novel was supposed to be a thought experiment. Strip away civilization, and what happens? Answer: chaos, violence, pig heads on sticks, summer camp vibes. It's been banned for excessive violence, bad language, and being demoralizing. Probably by the same people who think the Hunger Games is a cooking competition. But this book isn't about kids being evil. It's about how easily we slide into barbarism when rules vanish. Civilization is just a fragile Wi-Fi signal away from collapse. Also, there's no female characters. Just testosterone, fear, and Lord of the Flies, aka a literal pig's head on a stick that may or may not be Satan. It's bleak, it's brutal, and it got assigned in schools right before lunch. Which explains a lot, honestly.